DXO says that the Nik Collection 9 is the biggest ever update to this very well respected image manipulation suite of applications. So let's find out what's new and whether it's worth upgrading, because the biggest ever upgrade has got to be worth it, right? Now, I guess there are still people out there who aren't familiar with the Nik Collection, so very briefly, it's a suite of powerful software applications that manipulate images in clever and often unique ways that combine to create looks and styles that might be impossible otherwise, or if not impossible, incredibly long-winded. Basically, the Nik Collection is special because it can be used as a plugin for software like Affinity and Photoshop, or embedded as companion applications for DXO's own photo editor, which is called PhotoLab, and also Adobe Lightroom. Plus, it can be run directly as a set of standalone applications. Now, there's 8 of these applications in total. 4 are creative tools, and the other 4 are more production level tools for kind of input, output sharpeners, noise reduction. There's also a very competent HDR merging tool, but we're not going to be looking at those in this video as they haven't had the unique updates applied to them in this release. Or rather, what I should say is that they've had a whole bunch of updates which are applied across the board, but there's more updates in the creative tools, so that's what we're looking at. The biggest updates are to the creative tools color effects and analog effects, but the brand new and powerful masking functions that appear for the very first time in Nik 9 have been rolled out across every application, and that's a welcome change which on its own justifies the claim of it being the biggest ever update. But there's more. There is just so much more. So I've already mentioned it. We'll start with the masks because they are rather game-changing. Now, DXO has always, in my opinion, had the most powerful masking options of any photo editor with its U-point technology. So called because you pointed at something and it masked it. It might not have masked it perfectly, but getting a really good mask on an area or an element was never difficult. It was a few clicks away. If you could see the boundary of an element, U-point would usually make a very good job of masking it. Well, U-point is still there, but now there's also AI masking, and that's in every single tool where it makes a difference. And there's none of this server-side malarkey that requires you to have an internet connection. Everything is done on your machine. Oh, and also, of course, you don't need an ongoing subscription. I should also point out that even though it is done on your machine, it's reliably accurate and pretty fast. Masks of any kind can be copied from one tool to another, and even between images. And if you're using Photoshop, it can even import the masks that you created in Photoshop and then use them within your Nik tool. Now, there's 3 AI masks. There's object selection, area selection, and depth masking. And they're all pretty impressive. Objects and area AI masking can be used for very similar things. Object selection works out where things are, and you can simply select them individually. And area masking allows you to just drag over a selection of an area, and it will establish where the objects and the boundaries and such are within that, and it will just make the mask to do it. Now, these have been in PhotoLab now since version 8, and were also refined in version 9, and they've become very useful features. They are surprisingly speedy too. I mean, my laptop isn't state-of-the-art by any measure. It's a 10th gen 2.5 gigahertz i5 CPU with 16 gig of RAM and an RTX 2060. Sure, it's no slouch, but in tech terms, this is hardly new, being a 2020 CPU. I've got no complaints over the speed that this AI masking works. Now, the depth mask is probably the slowest because it's got the most to do. And you've got to, of course, also be very careful how you pronounce depth, because you could end up with something very, very different, particularly if you Google it. It's probably better to just show you how this works. I mean, usually depth masks have been limited to work with images that have embedded data with them from, I think, iPhones and such. They contain some kind of depth information. But this new tool just looks at your image, does something very clever, well, not up there, but you know what I mean. And it comes up with the goods. The depth masks are really interesting things. Now, I'm not going to pretend it's fast. It will take, this image took probably a minute to to get us from working out, well, from start to kind of finish. And you can see as I kind of move through here, it's selecting the areas as I go, and it's doing so very cleverly as well. Look at this tree over here on the left. It's difficult to point at it because the mouse pointer changes the depth mask. But you see, as I move from kind of this position, I've got the forward tree, and as I move ever so slightly back, that shading masking goes further back. This is pretty impressive, I've got to be honest. And even here, when we got everything kind of beyond the trees, you can see there's less masking going on as we go further up, particularly the tree right in the center as well. Look at the trunk of that on the left-hand side, where it's got some shading, but not all of it, as it's kind of coming in and out of the this depth mask. The other interesting thing about it is that we've got these sliders over here, so we can actually increase this depth of it. And this is on a fog filter, so you can see how once I've actually started playing with that mask adjustment kind of doesn't work in quite the same way, and I can now move the mask pointer in order to kind of get that, and then adjust from there, so you can pull it down to be more at close level, and I can adjust the midpoint of it, and I can also link these as well, so I can link them and pull them around separately, which is really very, very powerful. Of course, it will take a little bit of working out where to pull these things, and no two images are going to be the same, but the amount of power that this gives me is pretty phenomenal. Yes, I could have probably done most of it in masking before, but it would have involved me going in with control points in these areas around here, and maybe color masking and such, and so select the elements that are already a little bit misty and kind of mask out other bits and such. It would have been phenomenally time consuming and really complicated. And here we've got it operating very intelligently, completely live. And I've got to emphasize, there's no server interaction here. This is done entirely on the laptop. Aside from the masking updates, and I really hope that the depth mask is in the next update of PhotoLab, the main enhancements are to color effects and analog effects. And these are two incredibly powerful image manipulation tools in their own right. Yeah, in the past, this update just makes them better. Now, I rely on these a great deal to get many of my images looking the way they do. We'll begin with analog effects, which has got two new filters added, both incredibly powerful. The one I'm most excited about is the glass filter, which mimics looking through a sheet of obscured glass at whatever is on the other side. And there's a huge amount of scope here. It's not just for creating some kind of illusion that you're looking through a bathroom window or something. Now, sure, you can set it up to do exactly that, but with some careful scaling and on the right image, you can make really delicate images appear even more painterly, as these glass aberrations can quickly begin to look like tiny brush strokes. Combine this with the masking and the one thing I haven't yet mentioned, blending, and the scope of this is out of this world. Now, the other new feature is the chromatic shift tool. DXO says that it's inspired by the offset printing process, where color plates could be misaligned to create a subtle ink alignment or misalignment for an authentic analog feel, so they say. Now, this kind of effect is quite common in videos and films and such, where the individual RGB channels are split and often kind of offset a little bit, perhaps in glitch transitions, or perhaps in filmic scenes looking through the eyes of a delusional or drugged character, that kind of dreamy, kind of out of this world effect. Applied in creative ways, this could be very useful, and there's the usual controls that can to work the offset and the angles, enlargements or in reductions. Basically, you can be as bold or as subtle as you want. Now, if we look at color effects, the changes here include all of the masking and all of the blending, and we'll come to the blending a little bit later. But again, there's two new tools in here. We've got halation and color grading. Now, you could be forgiven for not being very excited about the color grading, as it's hardly anything new. But it's the way that it works that's interesting. Not specifically what it does, but the way that it works. You've got just one color wheel here with independent markers for the highlights, the midtones and the shadows. Now, each one of these is positionable at any point on the wheel. However, you can also select two or all three of those markers and move them as one, maintaining their chromatic differences and distances, but adjusting the overall hues and luminances. It's a very nice feature. It's stupidly easy to use, and I think a lot of people will prefer it to the kind of individual sliders that you tend to get, or individual color wheels that you tend to get on other software. But also, if you need to fine tune, you can also drop down the more traditional hue, saturation and luminance sliders for more precise adjustment of the highlights, the shadows and the midtones. Now, what's not on offer in this software is the ability to import and export LUTs, but that's perhaps understandable in itself, as it's almost certain that you'll be using Nik in conjunction with another photo application that will already offer this feature, just in a different way. If we turn to the halation, it's a really interesting tool that's included in color effects. It might have been more suited to analog effects because it's effectively trying to mimic the scattering of light that's common on a film emulsion when recording light sources. Also the kind of thing you might get, the scattering of light in foggy and misty situations. And it's particularly useful in darker settings where there's a kind of neon glow or a subtle halo from a strip light. It's a really, really nice tool to use, and it finds your lights and it goes to work on them without complaint. It's fast. I mean, just look at the example here. That main light is obvious in the frame and you would expect it to pick it up instantly. But just watch how the software is also finding the reflection in the puddle and going to work on that. There's no mask in here, it's just finding it, it's getting on and doing it. Now let's introduce the other major feature, which is brand new and incredibly powerful, blending modes. Now, even without the new filters, the new blending options make Nik 9 a must-have upgrade in my opinion. If you're a Photoshop or an Affinity user, you will probably be familiar with the layer blending options, you know, the kind of normal soft light, hard light, pin light, difference exclusion, all of that kind of stuff. Well, now these options are in the Nik Collection, and there's 18 of these modes along with opacity sliders and of course the masking. For the first time we get to see the Nik Collection work with layers. Well, kind of. Color Effects has for years allowed you to drag the various applied filters around in a hierarchical order, allowing for subtle or even dramatic changes in the effect depending on where the filters are being applied. It's perhaps one of the things that a lot of users have never appreciated was actually there. I don't think it was hugely obvious, well, at least to me. However, now with all of the blending features, which exist in Color Effects and analog effects, there's a great deal more control over this, and it's quite apparent that there's a layering system going on. Sure, it's only Color Effects that allows you to change that layer order, but I'm not sure that's any real problem. Certainly, it's probably not beneficial in Silver Effects, where the entire point of the software is to become a more logical, linear application of a black and white darkroom process, for instance. And I don't think it would be terribly applicable in Analog Effects, but in Color Effects, it makes a big difference. Purely from a bullet point list of additional features, it might not seem that there's a lot new here. You know, I mean, it's 4 new filters, tools, you know, some blending modes and better masking options. But when you realise the actual power and control that you get from the blending and masking alone, the 4 new filters tools are almost a bonus. But there are other changes as well, and most notably to the real-time mask overlays and also the hover over preset previews. I guess they're the cherry on top, really. Now, as usual, users of recent Nik Collection versions 7 and 8 get preferential upgrade rates that are just over half the cost of a new license at £79.99. The alternative currency options are on screen. A new user license is £149.99, so 150 quid. New DXO customers can also use my code AndrewB15 and you'll get a whopping 15% off their purchase, and you're supporting the channel by doing so. Thank you very much. As with all of the other DXO software, you can download a trial and work with it free for 30 days. Decide if you like it. The trial isn't watermarked, it's not restricted in any way whatsoever, and you do not have to hand over your payment details. It will simply stop working after 30 days have elapsed if you don't buy a license. So there's absolutely no risk to you. The other huge benefit of DXO software is you're buying a lifetime license. Download, install and run it for as long as you want with no obligation to ever upgrade and spend more money on a yearly subscription, for instance. Now, I've been using colour effects and analogue effects a lot in recent years. Now, I first bought Nik Collection 2, I think it was, exclusively for the black and white processing capabilities of Silver Effects. And in more recent times, I've been fortunate enough to have DXO as a channel supporter. As someone who initially put their money where their mouth is, I can honestly say that for me, buying Nik for just that one tool was worth the expense. And it's only in more recent years that I found genuine uses for colour effects and analogue effects. I don't use the other tools in the collection very much, but then again, I have a phone that cost me £1,000 some years ago, and I barely used a quarter of that. And I feel sure that you'll be much the same with things that you own. And yeah, only use a tiny subset. I mean, I'll call you a liar if you claim that you've ever used more than 50% of the programs on your washing machine, for instance. My point is that you don't need to have the use of the entire software suite to actually feel it's of value. And I'm confident that just a couple of the tools in Nik will really bring a smile to your face, and it will bring new styles to your images. However, I do want to make it abundantly clear that most of what the creative tools in the Nik Collection are capable of can be done without them. You just need to be a kind of pro-level user of Photoshop with intimate knowledge of every one of the functions and how they work with layers and effects and filters and interact with each other. And basically there's a few things that Nik Collection can offer you that you can't do anywhere else if you've spent the last 24 months living and breathing photo editing at the cost of your social life and your eyesight. For everybody else, there's Nik. Take care.